Hello, and welcome to the Age Tech Innovators, the podcast where we explore how technology is transforming the way we care for our vulnerable population. I'm Monty, your host, and each week we chat with inspiring leaders who are making a real difference in the lives of vulnerable people, share innovations and ideas that help support and uplift those who need it most. Join us as we work together to build a brighter, more caring future for everyone. Now, let's dive in. So, I have the absolute honor, and I mean that sincerely, of chatting to Donna today. Donna, run me through who you are and what you do in 60 seconds.
Okay, I'm Donna Cusano. A lot of your people will know me as the editor-in-chief of Telehealth and Telecare Aware, publication that's been around for a whole lot of years. I have been writing for it since 2009. It's a feisty, independent journal of telehealth, telecare, healthcare technology, and all the influences around it. Written for a professional audience, people who are in the trenches, and I'm also one of those people in the trenches because since 2006 I have been in marketing in one way, shape, or form for healthcare technology companies, and I actually started with a technology company with customers in primarily senior living and assisted living environments. So that's how I got into this interesting field.
So, I am a avid reader of Telecare Aware, as I know many of our listeners are. How did you go from the the focusing on marketing in senior living spaces and senior care to actually starting and editing and running Telecare Aware? I'm really curious about this journey.
It's an interesting journey, and it has to start before 2006. I'm a marketer by trade. I started in advertising agencies, moved into marketing. I was in the travel industry. My journey kicked off. My mother had a stroke, mild stroke, but enough to affect her executive functioning area and her activities of daily living. Terminology that I learned much later. There was also something here called 9/11 that affected the travel industry. It inspired me to make a change. And after some false starts, I wound up in 2006 with Living Independently Group, which was one of the first companies to commercialize healthcare technology. This was for behavioral telemonitoring in home environments, generally of elders who lived alone. I went in as their marketing person. Nobody was in the field at that point. This was a totally new technology based upon a bunch of patents out of Temple University, two researchers who had done a lot of their researching in the UK and in Ireland, actually. And I started up their marketing department. That's how I got into it. How I became a journalist was I've always written various things, but written for marketing. Quiet Care had been marketed in the UK, and Steve kept on trying to, Steve Howard's the founder, had been trying to get me to advertise with him. And I think we did a little with him, but then the company was bought by GE Healthcare. I transitioned marketing over to Wisconsin, and that was it for me. I wasn't going to be joining GE. And he said, "Well, why don't you write some articles? Go to," and there were in New York a lot of conferences and things like that. So I started writing some articles, and because the website is news and opinion, I was able to express this is what I think about things that are going on. And I have carried this through consulting, Vitarian Digital Health, which was remote patient monitoring, with its biggest customer being the VA, Veterans Health Administration, health education, and before that, value-based care. And I've just kept on writing for it. And if anybody is watching this podcast, we do invite other writers to contribute. I really would love an editor in the UK, as I used to have. Steve is stepped back from writing for many years. He's the administrator. We just keep going. My view tends to be more US based. although I do pick up quite a bit in the UK, but I would really like someone over there to help share it and increase our volume for writing.
So, listeners, if you're a writer and you're based in the UK, we're speaking directly to you. We'd love to hear your perspectives.
Email me. My email is on the website. I'm easy to get through LinkedIn, and I'd be interested. And I also consult in marketing, and I have a fairly substantial breadth of knowledge and, capability, ability, and the kind of versatility that you need for an early stage company or to fit into an existing team and lend my broad base, branding to sales support, sales enablement.
Yeah, there's very few people I know who have such an in-depth understanding globally of telecare and telehealth. I'm really curious because I'm from the UK and now we're working a lot in the States. From my understanding, there could be a lot more international collaboration and partnerships between Europe and the States. What do you think blue sky thinking, the ideal future of telecare and telehealth looks like from the perspective of a global economy?
There are a lot of regional factors. It's an interesting question. When UK companies have tried to repot themselves into the US, it's like the fast lane on ramp of an interstate at rush hour. It's either totally jammed with competition or you better hit it at 80 miles an hour, 75 and a slightly illegal speed, you better be on your game. The U.S. environment is highly competitive, highly competitive. And, we've seen that with Babylon Health. Babylon Health, despite having contracts, failed utterly. Now, people can opine on that. Did they have a good model to transplant into the US for starters? Were they really failing in the UK? We can talk about that, but that's not an answer to your question. For US companies, the opposite applies. They have to make a lot of adjustments to the regulated and we have regulations here. We have FDA, we have CMS, we have regulations here. The regulations are different and every country is different. So if you're going over to the UK, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, France, you're dealing with all different systems here. How do you fit in them? And it requires a lot of on the ground examination of where you fit and how you can best develop an economic model for your technology.
Because I know chat to quite a lot of US companies who are looking to get a footprint in Europe and European companies who are looking to get a footprint in
Mhm.
the States. From what you've seen, which has been successful regarding businesses and their hop over the pond, we've got the importance of having people on the ground who understand the regulations. Are there any other aspects that you think are important to take into consideration? Because I think there's this idea that we have customers here, we can just copy and paste what we're doing and do it over here. So yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on this.
Partner with people on the ground here. I mean, you've got a model with Yokeru where you're partnering with existing companies. They can help you over the hurdles and let you concentrate on creating an excellent model that works here. And that's a transplantable, expandable, can integrate. That lets you concentrate here. US companies have to do exactly the same thing over there. Going back to living independently, we were partnering with several telehealth companies there, like Tunstall, because of the contracting at that time. There was a different contracting model. We had to do it that way, and that was the best thing. But you've got to work very closely with them, and you can't do it long distance. You really need to have people on the ground in the country to do that. And that is a heavy lift for a U.S. company given the funding environment here and the long runway and the general, it's getting better, but there's a lot of house cleaning and rebuilding going on just in the U.S. market with U.S. companies. And it's very difficult right now.
Super interesting. And so, if you're a US company looking to go into Europe or a European company looking to go into the US, one of the key things, as you say, is to get that market penetration isn't to try and compete, it's to try and find people to partner with and add value to their already existing footprint.
It's baby steps. You have to admit that you can't go in there like gangbusters. You can't be like a Babylon Health, and do it. And you have to do what you say you're going to do. Babylon, I'm going to give that example again, didn't do what they said that they were going to do for a fairly large company that uh, a large payer here in the United States. Corporately, they're known as Centene. They have a whole bunch of brands, including a health plan that I used to work for. And they didn't do what they said that they were going to do. You have to be on the money every day, 24/7. And if you've got a problem, be honest about it, work it through. And that's good. It's just generally adhere to good business practice and don't think that you can tell lies. Just be honest, be upfront. And when you're in those meetings, and I learned this from a doctor who succeeded very well with a technology company. Go in there with a blank pad and say, "What's your problem? Yeah. What keeps you up at night? What problem do you need to solve? How can we help you solve it?" You may walk away and say, "We can't help solve that problem." What keeps them up at night is not something that we can solve, but it's in marketing. You're looking for the pain points. You're looking for what keeps them up at night. You're looking, does what I have in hand here solve your problem? Okay. And let's work together to solve it. Potential client, a sense of relief is a good start. Gee, they're here to help me. They're not here after my money.
So, of all of the problems that you've been reading about and all of the acquisitions that happen and all of the changes in the landscape, what do you think some of the most exciting problems that are out there in the space right now on the topic of problems? What do you think some of the ones are that are ready to be solved or are not solved to a level that is satisfactory to the market? The question.
Um, I think mental health is a huge problem, and we were trying to band-aid it with telehealth. That needs to sort out, at least in the US. Mental health support delivered via telehealth isn't about drugs. And that was the first iteration. It was about e-prescribing. We need to sort that out with DEA, Drug, Drug Enforcement Administration, on the types of drugs that can be e-prescribed, the kind of consults that can be done. Is an in-person consult necessary? I believe it is in a lot of cases. Disclaimer, my brother's a psychiatrist. He has worked both the telehealth side and the in-person side. There is nothing like the face-to-face with a person who's struggling. He has decades of experience doing this. But we need to arrive at a better e-prescribing model. Mental health telehealth companies can't be drug peddlers. And they got caught during the pandemic doing exactly that. And that's not fair. We need to sort that out. But there's a huge potential there because there are no young psychiatrists. The average age of psychiatrists in the US is maybe about 55 to 60. The last time I looked at a survey, it was 50. They're all retiring. They're all on that slope to retirement. We need better coverage. We need more from allied health support, and that's not prescribing therapy. Therapy being delivered and that daily contact for people who relate better to phones than human beings is needed. So that's a huge area of growth and sorting that out. It's also a really crowded highway right now in the US. The other is weight loss. Americans are heavy. It's a global problem. Overweight is a global problem. I think there's a company named Virta right now that's got I think is groping its way towards a good formula from what I've read. Uh, they are looking at not only support people who are on GLP-1 drugs, but when you go off the drugs, as you inevitably will, you will not be on them for life. How do you change your nutrition? How do you create a support network? How do you do that? How do you maintain that weight loss? And can you get that weight loss and diabetes control? Because they really started as a diabetes control company done by something other than drugs. Can you do that? Can you manage yourself off your diabetes and lose the weight and the like? Can you do that through a nutrition-based approach? And they are one company that I think is moving because they started on the nutrition side. They are now incorporating the drug support, but their focus is still a nutrition-based management model. So we're starting to see that. I know you read that I really predicted an implosion of GLP-1 drugs. I think there are too many out there. They're now looking at and testing. They're in, I think, phase two tests on an oral drug, but that could be huge if it worked.
Can you just quickly explain what GLP drugs are to the UK non-US listeners?
Wegovy, Zepbound, these are the drugs that are Ozempic is the brand that everybody seems to know. Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, and their whole slew of others. Mounjaro, everybody's coming out with one. Every major drug company has a GLP-1 drug. Okay. It's almost like there's this whole grouping of drugs out there for people. People want to lose weight. People want to lose weight to control their diabetes. After those drugs are done, after you're off of them, you need to be. There are too many telehealth companies that are jumping on this bandwagon right now without really thinking it through. They just want to prescribe them. And it's a way to make a good amount of money because right now that is now hotter than the mental health aspect of telehealth.
For people, it appears as a silver bullet, which is always a warning sign because I don't think there are silver bullets in life, just
Yeah,
in really
yeah.
anything.
You're on I hate to use the trite word journey, but losing weight is not easy. I can personally testify to that. Losing weight is not easy, particularly as you get older, and you need as much support as you get, and ultimately does go to, your metabolism. And I believe, and perhaps I hope this isn't wishful thinking, that they're going to be looking more at the metabolic and thyroid factors that go into weight loss and why is a person the weight they are. And even better, I think with an incoming head of HHS, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we're going to be looking at nutritional factors, metabolic factors. I think he will be doing a great deal on that, having been on his own rather difficult journey in life to health and to not everything is curable with a drug. And outlawing of red dye number 3, which the US has finally caught up with, is just one factor. We're already getting there. So there are a lot of things, he's a wild card, but I believe change is good, and it's going to affect everything under Health and Human Services.
Which is fantastic. It's going to be a very exciting time. From the changes that you're seeing in the industry, and you've seen businesses arrive, be formed, you've seen them grow, you've seen them fail, you've seen them be acquired. What are some of the challenges that you see businesses having in this space in terms of actually growing sustainably? What are some of when you're seeing businesses fail or you're seeing them being acquired for potentially quite low estimates? What's the thread?
The thread is that founders with a vision often aren't good financially. I've seen this up close. You need to have somebody who's good legally and financially, and If you get them in the same person, that's fabulous. You also need to listen to them. Seeing too many companies fail because the vision of the founder got way too big from the company to support. And VCs don't have the money. They had spent a lot of money during pandemic time, and now they are repenting at their leisure. Private equity companies and even VCs, they look for the exit. Once you get overly engaged with them and you take too much money from them, they are looking for somebody else's money at that point. They are looking for the exit, the door marked exit. And if that's public markets, an IPO, if that's somebody else coming in and putting in money, that's what you're going to be subject to. And that is a lot of distraction for founders and the people who support the founders. So if you can grow a business bit by bit, making revenue, keeping your expenses low, getting some good salespeople on board, people who can sit down with that blank pad and say to a potential client what you're paying. You don't say what you're paying, say, what problem can I help you solve today? If you can get people like that on board before you spend lots of money on marketing and social media and ads and going on radio and television and all that, if you can get that and you can start getting a revenue model and paying as you go, I wouldn't say bootstrapping. Bootstrapping's way too early. If you can get that revenue model and start to make money and stay away from the VCs, stay away from the PEs, private equity, you'll be better off in the long term because you will then have a company that sustains itself and you won't be beholden to anybody and you will have learned the hard lessons. I won't say at a discount, but you will be learning as you're going and not committing extreme problems, nor will you be beholden to somebody on Sand Road in the Bay Area in California. That's perhaps a singular way of putting it, but I've been up and down with companies that have had, like living independently or operating literally on a shoestring. I had to do marketing on a shoestring. It worked. You can do it. You can use earned media. You can be very economical with the kind of media that you use and not be dependent on one client. Problem with Viterian Digital Health, I was in marketing, I headed up marketing for them, was that they put too many eggs in one basket, and that basket was called the Veterans Health Administration. If you are dependent upon a government client, know that they can pull the rug from under you at any time, even if your contract is for 5 years. So diversify, be smart, don't take a lot of money, have investors who will work with you knowing that it's a long road. Yes, you may have to take investment money, but work with investors that you sync with. Don't take the easy VC or PE money because you may find yourself in a shotgun marriage. I see a number of these private equity companies taking two companies and smushing them together. They've invested in both. They have similar businesses, similar technologies. Okay, you're merging. Next. So that's a way of, if you want to be smart about your business.
It's a very on the money answer. And I think a lot of our listeners are thinking about that. A lot of them are quite either running startups or they're still SMBs and so that's a really, really relevant answer to them. A couple of quick questions before we finish, because well, I'm sad that time's gone so quickly. One question is, imagine if we fast forwarded 50 years, let's say 60 years. You look in the mirror and you see, wow, I'm now an elderly person. What would you like your day to be like? And what technology would you like to use as you depend on technology much more?
Okay, well, one, you're being very kind, but if longevity works, and I'm here at 60 years, what I want is a helper. Okay, I want to be able to have the time to enjoy things, enjoy life, but things like maintenance and cleaning and doing the laundry and things like that, robotic helpers. A lot of people live alone. I wrote an article about these desktop, interactive robots just this week in Telehealth Telecare Aware, and eh, that is an interesting future. Can we get that kind of help? Can you lift this for me? That kind of interactive help around the house that as we get older, we need. We don't want to slip into the uncanny valley. We already have that information, uncanny valley, when they're too humanoid and people are turned off by it because they're too humanoid. But something that's friendly, something that's affordable and can interact with me and take care of some of the chores, because hopefully in 60 years I will be in good enough shape and will have exercise, and I take my little longevity pill in every morning, uh, and I can do that. But I do need some help around the house, and whether that's small and it fits on the tabletop, or it's larger and it buzzes around the house and does my vacuuming for me, uh, and cleans up and says this is, and interacts properly with me. And that's a function of AI. I mean, AI is here. I admire the way you're using it. You're kind of chunking it to, small and usable chunks. We need to we need to understand the difference between AI and machine learning, and we need to make it safe for everybody. So things of that nature. But I would love to see, people need help around the house. Not that you're sitting around, it frees you up to have time to do other things. Or for the people who have impediments to their ability, can help them too. And I think that could be robotics could be a huge market. Robotics has gotten kind of pushed into the background, other than these tabletop things, which are really kind of on the early stage of the curve. So the robotics companies aren't there, other than maybe in Japan with this, affection type robots and the like. So to get on it and start working and using AI technology, machine learning to develop assistance for people who need it, because we all need it as we get older.
It's so true. I'm looking forward to our little home helpers that can give us massages the whole time.
Give me a massage, but can you lift this thing for me? Really, they're not particularly effective. And when you have a combination of floors and the like, I think robotic assistance is an area of growth, but it is really the technologies are too expensive right now for wide
Yeah.
use.
Well, Donna, my last question is for our listeners who are innovators, who are thinking of either creating their own business within the telecare, telehealth space, or they're looking to work for and with innovative businesses. What would you say to these listeners who are considering entering into the space? What encouraging words?
It, oh, just go do it. Go do it. With living independently, I jumped into an area that I knew nothing about. Everybody was an absolute beginner. And that's where we are. We're really absolute beginners here, but we also have to be more than that and watch out for the pitfalls. Find good people to work with, people who are, let's all be on the same page. Let's appreciate our differences on it. Let's speak freely, and be critical, about things. Get into it. Find a niche. Find, and for marketers like me, I'm always looking for people who need some help in that area, to think clearly about marketing, to solve client problems, because ultimately marketing is to enable the selling process. You're looking at getting inside target heads. So that helps. That helps a great deal when you're looking at that. So just do it, get into it, find people of like mind. Hopefully you can speak your mind and bring whatever you've got into it.
Well, I feel hyped. I feel like I've learned a lot about how businesses could best think about entering into the States and entering into the UK. And Donna, I am sad that we've run out of time because your turn of phrase is really enjoyable. I can tell that you're a writer having listened to you for the last 35 minutes. So thank you so much and look after yourself and I'll catch up with you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Bye. Peace, peace, peace.